Welcome back for part two of our content series. Different background, different topic, but same idea of giving ball players and families what they need to adjust to this time in your recruiting process. So today we'll discuss what you can do over the next few months to continue to stay on top of your recruiting, even during this new NCAA dead period currently going through April 15th, in which we talked about yesterday, and including, on this we'll cover coach communication, building your list of target college programs, updating your video and the role of video in recruiting, and then some academic and baseball specific steps that you can take to prepare over the next coming months. First and foremost, the first bullet point above all else here, and one which is well beyond my pay grade and for which guidance we look to other experts like the CDC, top priority is stay healthy. Do all the things you're hearing about, wash your hands a lot, practice social distancing, etc., to protect yourself and those around you. That's the top priority during this time. Now, to what is much more our area of expertise, there are things that you can do as a student athlete to advance your recruiting here as well. The key phrases that frame up the bulk of these takeaways are effective communication and being proactive. With the disruption around coronavirus, including canceled spring sports seasons, remote classroom learning for many schools, caps on events and gatherings, it can be very tempting and really easy to fall into what feels like a waiting period. It feels like this is a pause in your normal day-to-day life because it is an interruption. But it is critical that you don't just put your recruiting on pause during this time, because there's still a lot that you can and should be doing right now to keep making strides and to stay ahead of the recruiting process right now. First up, the first thing we're going to talk about is building your list of college programs. School research and building your target list is a crucial early step as you set the sights in your recruiting. And right now is a great time to do some of that base research and build out your list of target schools and baseball programs that you're looking at. Now, when we talk about building a school list, a natural first place for most student athletes to start is by listing the names of schools. School list schools. But we actually advise that you start one step further up the ladder or one step backwards from that, and begin with the individual qualities that you're looking for in a school. Focusing on the names of schools tends to draw student athletes that we've worked with at least towards labels, whether it's Division I, Ivy League, etc., rather than towards individual schools that can prove to be the best overall and holistic fit. And when we're talking about building out your college list and success in terms of the recruiting process, what we are speaking to is finding the right holistic fit that sets you up for the right college experience. The college selection and recruiting process has been driven by kind of this label-driven thinking for years, and it's built around, quite rightfully, powerfully branded labels, right? Especially in athletics, I think there's a tendency to think of groups of schools by the division, league, or conference they're in, whether it's Division I, ACC, SEC, Ivy League. We kind of paint with a broad brush and lump these schools together. And I think that often actually downplays the incredible spread that these schools offer geographically, academically, and in the overall college experience that they provide to student athletes. For example, saying that you like or are interested in Ivy League schools is saying that you are equally considering a small rural school with about 4,000 students on the border between New Hampshire and Vermont, Dartmouth, a half public university of about 15,000 undergrads in upstate New York, Cornell, and mid-sized schools of around 6,000 undergrads in the heart of Manhattan and Cambridge, Columbia and Harvard, respectively. These are wildly different schools to be lumped under this kind of Ivy League interest. And the name of the conference or the name on the plaque at the front of campus doesn't impact your experience in college like the qualities of the school do, right? The size, location, academic focus, if it's in versus outside of a city, etc. So we encourage prospective student athletes to start building their list of qualities that they're looking for in a college, and then use this as a filter for specific schools. Start with size, location, how far from home, et cetera, and then match that back against some schools to build out your list of schools. You can use this time during the dead period to think critically about what the qualities are that would best set you up for success in your college experience, what you specifically are looking for, and then with an open mind, start your search for schools that fit this overall profile. Next up is, after you've done that, we talked a lot yesterday about what is allowed during a dead period, and a lot of it came down to communication. So we're going to talk about building out an online profile and digital communication with college coaches. Even though it's an NCAA dead period, as we discussed in part one, coaches are still able to correspond with student athletes, and it's crucial during this time to do so. So once you've outlined in broad strokes some of the best fit schools for you, start on proactive communication with these coaching staffs. Step one, update your online profile. And if you don't have one, make one. Head over to Sports Recruits, our partner, our tech partner on the honor roll side, and create your free profile so that you can host all your information in one place to make your communication with college coaches much more efficient, centralized, and streamlined. You'll input your contact info, you can upload your transcript and test scores, and then you also have the option to upload, edit, curate video that you have of yourself so that it can all live right there in one place for coaches to use. We'll talk a little bit more about video and how to update that in a second, but when you have your profile built out, then you can start sending some emails to the programs and coaching staffs in your list. Since they're used to being in season at this time of year and very busy, coaches are going to have time on their hands for the types of communications and office work that during a typical season just wouldn't be at the top of their list, quite frankly. You can use this to your advantage when possible by filling out their recruiting questionnaires and communicating with them via email. To fill out the recruiting questionnaires, which is step one, head to the baseball website for your target programs. Virtually all of them will have some kind of recruiting form or questionnaire for prospective student athletes. Fill this out so that you can, so that your information makes its way into their system, and so that you receive communication about their upcoming prospect camps, recruiting events, etc. You can stay in touch with them, and you'll make your way onto their list once you fill that out, which is a really good first step. Once you've done that, start to email some of those schools that you're interested in as well. A few tips and best practices on this email. One, create a dedicated recruiting inbox to house all of your coach communication in one place, and have the email address be appropriate and include your name as much as possible. While that old account you've been using since sixth grade, Red Sox Rules 6789 at yahoo.com will work for personal use. For this, stick to something closer to, in my case, Max McKenna 2022 for your username. Set up a new inbox for this that includes your name, maybe your grad year, something in that vein. Also in this vein, this can and should be an account that you as a student athlete are in charge of, and all these emails come from you. Can't emphasize that point enough. Student athletes should be writing these emails. But for this inbox, parents can help support by having shared access to this account. In the year 2020, although adults are well-trained and very used to checking email on a regular basis, most kids simply aren't in that habit yet. So parents having access to this account can help you guys support your ball players in their coach communication, and just make sure that nothing falls through the cracks during this communication process. Point two for these emails is personalize. Include the right coach's name. Coaches or emails rather that start out "Dear Coach," have a much better chance of finding their way immediately into the trash or junk folder in an inbox. So do some research on the school and program. Include the coach's name, and then also include some unique and personalized points about the school. For example, if you think that Babson's focus on entrepreneurship is what makes the school the perfect fit for you, say that, and then show that you've done some research on the school and on that academic program as well. A key part of these emails is demonstrating legitimate interest. That's crucial to get yourself effectively onto these coaches' radars. And I believe that demonstrating effective and genuine interest comes down to two key points, which is research plus curiosity. So with your note to coaches, show that you've done your research, you've researched and educated yourself about what you can find directly and easily on the school's website and on the internet, but also that you're curious about some of the stuff that you can't simply find online. For example, you're interested in Caltech's engineering program and have researched the coursework necessary to complete that major, but in your email, you can indicate that and also ask, are there any unique challenges for me completing this major while I'm in season with the baseball team? This shows that you've done your research and that you also have a necessary curiosity about the next steps, which I think those two things, when put together, can really help demonstrate interest in a program. Step 3 for these emails, consolidate for efficiency. This is where that online sports recruits profile can really pay off. So rather than sending a coach an email with 4 different attachments with your transcript and test scores, 2 different YouTube links to different videos that you have online, etc., using an online landing page to consolidate all of your information in one place can really make it much easier for coaches. Then you can just include some basic contact information in the email, demonstrate this interest in the email, and then link directly to all the most up-to-date academic, video, information, etc. It'll include your transcript, contact info, video, travel coach information. All that can be in one place, and you only have to update it in one place as well. You don't need to go through updating all these different attachments. Just update it once in your profile, send that link out to coaches. Everything lives right there. Much easier and more efficient for you and for coaches. Step 4, really, really important. Please proofread these emails. You're going to be sending personalized emails to at least a handful of the schools that you're interested in. So make sure that you're sending the right email to the right coach. This seems really basic and elementary, but we hear from coaches every year that they get emails addressed to the wrong coach or about the wrong school. It's sent to the recruiting coordinator, but it says dear head coach's name. It is sent to the MIT coaching staff, but it referenced the Babson coaching staff's name, all these different things. So make sure that you are proofreading these. As I said, student athletes should be writing these emails themselves, but parents can be hugely helpful on the proofreading front by being a second set of eyes for spelling, grammar, and also making sure that the right emails are going to the right coaches. Take one last look at it and say, MIT says engineer, says dear Coach Carroll, great, send. That's the who you're sending it to, and all the information matches the email address that you're sending it to. Great, fire away. Editing is really important, but also parents, keep in mind that coaches are going to be able to pretty quickly tell the difference between an email written by a 16-year-old prospective student athlete and one written by a practicing lawyer. So, mom and dad, just keep that in mind as you're editing and not writing or rewriting these emails for your ball players. Next point to cover is updated video. Even if your high school season is canceled or interrupted or put on pause, this can still be a great time for you to capture updated video for your online profile, all while still following the proper precautions for public health and safety. On the blog post version of this video, we're including a cheat sheet for what to include in your video. So please take a look if you have questions about what to include and how to tailor your video to your unique specifications. For example, I believe that if you're a speed demon, there are ways that you can personalize and tailor what's on your video to highlight your unique tools of running really fast, being a speedster. Whereas if you're a monster power hitter, you can tailor it in a different way. So you can use this video to highlight yourself as a player. And while most of the video can be pretty formulaic and tailored to your position, you can use parts of it to really highlight your play and your tools and your strengths specifically. Next up, classroom and academics. With a lot of schools moving to remote learning, I'm sure that student athletes are tempted to view this as an extended spring break, which I get. But while you're, even though you're not in the classroom physically in a lot of cases, you're still going to get grades for this spring, and they're still going to matter on the transcript that you submit to admissions offices. So it's really important to stay on top of it. Right now around the country, there are adults who are suddenly working remotely, and they are having issues with it. They are struggling to adapt, myself included, to this new remote working or remote learning paradigm. So student athletes also are going to have some of these same challenges. What I would advocate is set up a routine for yourself so that you can follow it and really help yourself establish good remote learning habits. It's really important to stay in this mindset. Also, because so many companies right now are moving to telework whenever they can, there are some new and great and incredible resources on the internet about how to manage this new paradigm effectively and stay productive and stay on task and stay with right prioritization, etc. And even though these articles and posts are written specifically for working professionals, they can be really useful for students as well. We've included a short list of some of these articles and resources at the bottom of the blog post version of this as well. So feel free to check out some of those if you're struggling with this. We know that also on the standardized testing front, we know that recent rounds of standardized testing have been canceled, postponed, delayed, etc. If your date was canceled, if your test was canceled, reschedule it and then use the extra time to continue to prepare for your test. It's proven that access to studying and test prep resources help you when the actual test comes around. So use this time and these resources to your advantage. Our friends and a former honor roll alumni parent at Compass Test Prep are a great starting resource for those looking for support, and they offer both in-person and remote tutoring, so feel free to check them out. Link also included for that in the blog post version of this too. Next and final is game prep and development. Even though your season may be canceled or postponed, this is not the time to take a few weeks or months off from baseball. Use this time to work on your game. You can work on your strength and physical development, fundamentals, go to your private instruction, your lessons, etc. If you're a hitter, focus on your tee and soft toss work. If you safely have access to an open hitting tunnel, do some front toss and even some BP. Get to an available field to take some fungos. And if you don't have access to a field or need to better self-isolate for health reasons, find a wall, use a tennis ball, work on backhand technique, or refine your outfield footwork in your living room. Do what you can to kind of keep working. The really tough part about this time is that most student athletes won't have the same opportunity for competition that you usually would have during your spring season. So you have to find a way to replace this and continue to develop by challenging yourself in this drill work and trying to make your reps as game-like as possible, which can be a challenge. College coaches that I've spoken with over the years, this is a main focus of theirs, and something that teams around the country certainly focus on, but also struggle with. If you can gamify your reps to add some pressure, do it. If when you're doing front toss, don't just work on the showcase reps where you're pummeling the back of the tunnel. Have your partner work in some unexpected simulated off-speed pitches so you can get some of that game-like feel whenever you can, so you can stay in the rhythm of playing baseball. If you're still watching, I know this is a longer video, thank you for sticking with it. Remember, the key words for student athletes right now are communication and proactivity. We want to make sure that you have the tools and information that you need to continue to advance your recruiting. And a key piece of that is making sure that you're continuing to make strides. You're not standing still. You're keeping your feet moving in the recruiting process. On part 3 later this week, we'll discuss some of the potential recruiting impacts of these NCAA decisions regarding eligibility and what they can mean for you in your college selection recruiting process. As always, if you have any questions about today's tips and tactics or about what's coming up, please feel free to reach out to us directly via email at showcase@headfirst.com or give us a call at 202-715-6654, and we're ready to help. Thank you.